Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I hope you're doing very well today. Today, what I would like to do, if you don't mind, is I'd like to give some very introductory comments with respect to a recent release made by the Criterion Collection this year, 2020. And oh gosh, this is a fascinating release made by the Criterion Collection. I happen to have the Blu-ray set, which is purported to be a limited Blu-ray set in terms of the artwork and art design, and I will get to that in a second. The set that I am speaking about is a set that includes 3 films. The films are Journey to the Beginning of Time, Invention for Destruction, and The Fabulous Baron Munchausen. The filmmaker is KAREL ZEMAN, and the name of the set is 3 Fantastic Journeys by KAREL ZEMAN. This is the Blu-ray set from the Criterion Collection, which is this Digipack set, which is featured like so. It has the 3 films on 3 separate discs, and it has spine numbers 1015, 1016, and 1017 in the bottom of the spine here. So this is a spine numbered, this is a set that includes 3 spine numbered titles. I should emphasize that, just for your information, it appears that the set itself is not spine numbered. So once again, the only spine numbers that are given are those for the films. So 1015 is Journey to the Beginning of Time, 1016 is Invention for Destruction, and 1017 is for The Fabulous Baron Munchausen. I have taken out the inner part of the Digipack, and what we can see is a wonderful design, and it comes with this fold-out insert, which folds out like this, and it reveals a very long and quite detailed and very informative essay called Storm of Craft by Michael Atkinson. And this is an essay that's covering KAREL ZEMAN's career, his life, and also the films, the 3 films in the set, and how they fit into the context of ZEMAN's career. And I should say that this is a very interesting set, I think, for anything, for its artwork. And this is artwork that is credited as being art designed by Eric Skillman, designer Eric Skillman, yes. And so we have also this, which is very interesting as far as this particular Blu-ray release is concerned. We have the outer shell, which has this very intricate artwork, which I think is really quite lovely, which also reveals the information on the back and then the spine right there. So there's this red motif, but on the front we have this very ornate decoration. And it's made further interesting by the fact that the inner part of the Digipack is like this, here and here. We open it up, and here we have the 3 films revealed. And just to be absolutely clear, let's see. Journey to the Beginning of Time, Invention for Destruction, and The Fabulous Baron Munchausen. But to make it even more interesting, each of these sort of insert portions has its own pop-up art, like so for Journey to the Beginning of Time. And as you can see, this is very consistent with the film itself, for those of you who know the film. Invention for Destruction is very similar. There we go. And then The Fabulous Baron Munchausen opens up like so. Very interesting indeed. I should mention that the each portion has its own little sleeve compartment, which is meant to house the Blu-ray disc. Here for Journey to the Beginning of Time, and then here for Invention for Destruction, and then here for The Fabulous Baron Munchausen. I, however, personally prefer not to keep the Blu-rays in these sorts of sleeves where the surface of the Blu-ray, the underlying surface, touches the cardboard or paper. I'm under the understanding that there really isn't any kind of damage that is sustained in terms of this packaging system. At least that's what someone has told me, or a number of people have told me. However, I still think, and I'm actually more comfortable with the Blu-rays being in a kind of jewel case or a Scanovo case or something with a little lock-in in the middle of the disc. I'd prefer not to have the sleeves. And so whenever there is a sleeve release that I have, what I end up doing is I take the discs out, and in fact I store them in separate compartments or separate casing that I have, and it has the lock-in for the middle of the disc. And so that's what I do for the discs that can be found on the KAREL ZEMAN set. So I don't like to keep them in these sleeves, and in fact I would say that for me, as great as this artwork is, and I do think it's really fabulous, and I love the pop-up art, and I love the pictures, and I love the attention to detail, and I love the font use and everything. I'm actually not such a big fan of the sleeves. I wish there was some jewel, or not jewel, but plastic casing that was employed. That would be great. However, if the use of plastic casing meant that the pop-up art needed to be gotten rid of, then that's also something to consider, because the pop-up art is actually very charming, and there's something about the pop-up art that is that has a kind of link to Karel Zeman, the filmmaker himself. You know, Zeman is known for his in-camera film style techniques and photographic trickery and special effects, which have a lovely, charming, handmade quality to them. And I would suggest that the pop-up art gives or has that suggestion of a kind of handmade feel to giving life to images. And so I think in that sense there is a direct connection between how this artwork is being presented in the pop-up version and Karel Zeman, the artist himself. So I like that that sort of visual subliminal link. That being said, I think it's also nice to have discs that would be, that you know are sort of in protected condition in terms of plastic casing and such. So it's a tough question for me if plastic casing for future releases of this set meant getting rid of the pop-up art. I'm not sure how I would feel about that, but I do know, at least now, as much as I really like this set in terms of its packaging, I do have a bit of an issue when it comes to the use of sleeves. And of course the use of the sleeves is not exclusive to this set. We've seen it in other sets as well. And so, you know, the Bergman set, I mean, that's a great set in and of itself in terms of its contents, but the way that you have to put the discs in, you have to put them in those hard-bound pages that have their own sleeves. That's another example. And so the same is true for the Olympics box set. The discs come in their own little envelopes. And so this is something similar to that, which I'm not really the biggest fan of. But again, as long as I'm able to keep the discs in a separate case, which I have, then I have no particular issue other than just to say that this is the case, just in case anyone else out there is concerned about how to store and the like, or if you're not concerned about that, then there's nothing to be worried about, of course. So there's that as well. I should say also that it is true that the Criterion release of these films is not the only release of these films out there. I understand that these films have been released, for instance, through discs that have been released, for instance, in Japan. There have been also releases made through the KAREL ZEMAN museum itself. And so many of these releases actually I don't own, and so I can't really give you any kind of guidance as far as which versions to get, because I don't have any direct experience with them. However, of the other non-Criterion releases with respect to these particular films, I do have the releases made by Second Run, the UK label. And they were released individually on Blu-rays that are multi-region, ABC. So these are UK discs, but I can play them okay on my Japanese Blu-ray player. And what is more, these releases from Second Run have many of the similar supplements, and perhaps more importantly, they rely on what seem to be the same 4K digital restorations, the same digital restorations that Criterion also relied upon. And also looks like there's participation from the KAREL ZEMAN Museum as far as other supplements are concerned. So there are differences, of course, and I should say that the differences with respect to a number of these films might make a difference in terms of the supplemental material, but in general, and principally speaking, the restorations themselves are, as far as I can tell, for the main films, the Czech versions of the films, the same as the Criterion release. So you are getting the same presentation of the films themselves, whatever label you choose, whether it's Second Run or Criterion. So it really depends on what it is you're looking for and what kinds of needs you have as far as being a Blu-ray collector or Blu-ray consumer, and or a fan and admirer of the works of KAREL ZEMAN, or someone who is seeking to learn more about KAREL ZEMAN. You know, what kinds of supplements and what kinds of information are important for you and your own personal film journey into the works of ZEMAN. So there are many similarities, but there are some differences as well. That's something to keep in mind. Please note that going forward, I will be talking about each of these films in separate videos, beginning with Journey to the Beginning of Time, and so, and then Invention for Destruction, and then The Fabulous Baron Munchausen. So if you don't mind, please let me, on those occasions, speak to you about the Criterion release, and if I have time, please let me share with you some thoughts that I have about comparing the Criterion release with the relative Second Run release, or the respective Second Run release, and just to give you my thoughts about what's on this release versus what's on that release, what might be better, what might be more preferable, etc., as far as I can understand it. Once again, I don't have any other of the ZEMAN films on any other label, so I can't give you any further comparative analysis, unfortunately. But what I can give you is just some thoughts that I have about comparing the Criterion release with the Second Run Blu-ray releases. Bottom line, I would say that you can do no wrong with either approach, my friends. They both have their own respective good points, great points, and there are also many areas of similarity and overlap. And so there is no one clear winner over the other, so to speak. There are, however, some specifics that I think are worth talking about, and so I will speak to those in separate videos going forward, if you don't mind. But I would say ultimately that this film, or this set, I should say, from the Criterion Collection is, it's not perfect in terms of some of the things that I've spoken about today, and also some of the other things I will speak about in future videos. But there are sets that are rarely perfect, of course. And even with the acknowledged imperfections, this still is a truly unbelievable set in terms of getting into these great works by KAREL ZEMAN. And in particular, and I will get to these in future videos, there are some aspects to the Criterion set that are just simply stunning and that make the Criterion set really worth getting. And so if you don't mind, please join me in the future videos, starting with Journey to the Beginning of Time. And hopefully I'll try to explain what the differences are between these two approaches, between second run and Criterion, and just let you know about that. But once again, I think you can go you can go either the second run route or the Criterion route, and you can still be okay with your purchase, because either way is fine, my friends, in my opinion. But this is for the Criterion Collection, and the Three Fantastic Journeys by KAREL ZEMAN is certainly a set to keep one's eye out for, because it is a marvelous one. So my friends, thank you very much for now, and if you are interested, please join me in some future videos going forward, where I will begin talking about this film set in earnest. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Until then, my friends, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. So until we meet again, cheers.